Hello, it's Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland. Thanks for joining the channel again. It's greatly appreciated. We have a little discussion about geopolitics. The geopolitics from this area can certainly affect anyone if things go terribly wrong. But today I want to talk about Western propaganda, spin, call it what you want, bullshit. But whatever it is, it's designed to suit I guess, the political direction that the West wants to take. And it's very dangerous because the West's desire for colonial control of the rest of the world is never ended, it seems. Here, the BBC, which used to be a respected institution, is being accused of bias. And we see an example here of where it uses the word holding instead of kidnapping, which is more correct. And why was that? Well, probably because one of the editors of the BBC is a Zionist. We see that studies and research has shown this bias against Palestinians, and we understand that one of the possible reasons for this is the influence by, it says Jewish companies, but I would rather call it Zionist companies if they happen to support the Israeli narrative. Remember, Judaism is not Zionism. There are many Jews who have been hurt by the horrors from Gaza, which is a big danger to Judaism. Zionism is a apartheid colonial evil, which I'm not sure has anything to do with Judaism. So here's an example of the sort of headlines that the BBC will put out. It mentions Hamas-run health ministry, immediately signaling to the viewer that this can't be trusted, this information, whereas they changed the headline to just emphasize, yes, it was an Israeli airstrike, and it's a war crime, isn't it? It should really say it's a war crime. There are many people who have spoken up, Gary Lineker being one, heroes all. They lose their jobs. They have, in some cases, sanctions like Francesco Albanese. They're all heroes, those who would put everything on the line to try and tell us the truth and not accept the spin, right? And the spin comes from not just media. For example, the Bible, believe it or not, has been used for propaganda. The 1909 Schofield Bible is infamous for influencing tens of millions of Christians into believing that Genesis 12:3 should be interpreted to mean that Israel should be defended and protected, whereas the references to Abraham's descendants, that's people, not a state, certainly not an antichrist state like Israel. Here we see that even the Bible can be problematic. In Australia, we're not immune. We have this person, so-called anti-Semitism envoy. Recall, anti-Semitism is about protecting the people of the Levant, which includes Palestinians, right? The Ashkenazi Jews are arguably not Semitic people, so I don't know how anti-Semitism can be labeled when criticizing Israel, which is mainly controlled by Ashkenazi Jews. But in any case, this person's husband apparently is a Zionist and wants to censor Australians, despite the High Court ruling in Australia, which says that criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitic behavior. Leaders, including Trump, like to spin things. It's just part of politics, right? But when they lie to cover up things like the most horrendous pedophile circle run by Mossad, the Israelis, to try and blackmail leaders, prominent business people, when they try and use media any way they can to try and fool people. I mean, this is one of the reasons why the collapse of the traditional media, why the youth are getting information from different sources, right? Those traditional media companies that are owned by Zionists, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot because they're not going to be in business in the future, that's for sure. Here's an example of Western media talking about, it's actually Western politicians talking about a terrorist from ISIS who rebranded himself in a suit because they decided that he would be a good pawn to weaken Syria so that Israel could then attack. And lo and behold, Israel's just attacked Damascus and now wants to take the southern part of Syria as part of their greater Israel vision. So how does one turn from a terrorist to a president, a respected president supported by the West? Well, all you have to do is fall in line with the West's direction, right? So, for example, Nelson Mandela was labelled as a terrorist by the US until 2008. But we all know that Mandela was an angel, really, someone who strove all his life to bring people together. But for the Americans before 2008, he was counter to what they wanted to do, support apartheid South Africa. Again, the Christians, the evangelicals of this world, who must be a little bit discombobulated by this problem, whereas they kind of talk about being pro-life, but then they can't criticize Israel because they're told that Israel should be defended, but Israel's doing genocide. But here they attack a Catholic Church, and oh my goodness, then there's all sorts of problems. How we can justify supporting Israel when they're attacking. But for years we've been saying that the Israelis don't care about Christians. They persecute Christians in Lebanon. They persecuted the Armenian Christians in the Armenian Quarter in Jerusalem. And you'll recall me talking about the support of Israel giving weapons to Azerbaijan so they can kill thousands of Christians here. So, I guess my message to the Christians, the evangelicals, the folk who've been dumbasses for decades and just followed the narrative they've been fed, is to wake up. Wake up. Israel is not on your side. They don't care about Christians. You've only got to see the many videos online of how they speak to Christians in Israel, for example. So, speaking of secret services and the Western secret hand, all of a sudden, when the West wants to present a message, there's dozens and dozens of YouTubers are given a message, I guess. In this case, Azerbaijan is going to have a war with Russia. Well, if it does, Azerbaijan will only last days for sure. But the West wants to push this narrative because, again, Israel's behind it. They're putting weapons into Azerbaijan so that they can attack Iran. But this sort of influencer, they're not even influencers. We got the traditional media here, it's German DW News in on the act as well. But we've got influencers like this who talk about, it's a new front line maybe against Russia and Iran. If that happens, Azerbaijan won't last any more than a few days, that's for sure, despite what Turkey would say. I mean, look what Turkey is doing in Syria. Turkey talking all about Israel. We're going to have a war if they attack the Palestinians anymore, and we're going to support the Jolani ISIS folk to be the new leaders of Syria. But then they're silent when Israel attacks Syria. So we all know who the real power is. This YouTube account I follow, there's a lot of good stuff by Dr. Kerr Lindsay, but I just want to describe how just a few words changes the narrative and the impression that might be given. Here he talks about in the 19th century, Azerbaijan was part of Persia. Well, sorry, there was no Azerbaijan in the 19th century. Nothing north of the Arax River. And the only mention of Azerbaijan was south of the Arax River, which was a province of Persia at the time. This self-declared entity, which happened after the World War I period, and existed between 1918 and 1920 before the Soviets invaded, was a self-declared entity never recognized by any state, not even the Ottoman Empire. So it wasn't part of Persia in the 19th century, and it wasn't annexed by Imperial Russia because it was Persia, part of Persia, that was invaded and annexed. Whereas Armenia was an internationally recognized sovereign country at the time, and that indeed was invaded and annexed illegally by Imperial Russia and the Turks from the south. That's why Ararat now sits in modern-day Turkey. So this spin is designed to give the listeners the impression that Azerbaijan existed as a state. And indeed, he talks about a period of independence. No, it wasn't independent at all. It was a de facto entity, yes, but the word independence insinuates sovereignty, and it was not sovereign before the Soviets invaded. So then we get to talk about being incorporated into the Soviet Union. No, it was created by the Soviet Union. Stalin and co. created the Azerbaijan province, the SSR, against the protests of the Iranians at the time, because it had the same name, as I said, of the Iranian province. So it wasn't incorporated at all. It was created, and these words matter. And of course, the province lasted until 1991 when the Soviet Union fell. And then he talks about regaining its independence. No, it became independent for the first time on the 26th of December 1991. These nuances are important because it makes it look as if Azerbaijan's been around a long time. I mean, Armenians make the mistake of talking about Azerbaijan being as old as Coca-Cola. Or not as old as Coca-Cola, but of course it's actually not even as old as the internet, because the internet was created before Azerbaijan became a country. So yes, it's true, Azerbaijan has tried this balancing act between Russia and I guess the West, but he talks here about being part of the CIS, the Commonwealth of Independent States, and also about joining the Collective Security Treaty, which was the forerunner of the CSTO. But then some misnomers in terms of during the Artsakh or Nagorno-Karabakh war, he mentions that the Russians supported the Armenians during this conflict. But this is not true. In fact, from the period just before the first Artsakh War, from 1988, when the pogroms started in Baku and Ganja and this area as well, the Soviet Oman forces were known to support the Azerbaijanis. So the mention that Baku looked west because of Russia not being on their side, it's completely untrue. And we see this even in recent times, where the Russians just stood by and did nothing, and even helped Azerbaijan to ethnically cleanse Artsakh in 2023. He talks here about them joining the Partnership for Peace program as a result of that looking west, but in fact all the Soviet entities were looking for defense partners, and he mentions quite correctly here that Ukraine, Moldova, Armenia, and even Russia itself were looking for different partners. So it was nothing to do with what he's talking about. This is really quite sad because we need truth. We need from our media. We need, whether it's an influencer, whether it's social media like this. The spin right now is that there's a peace agreement coming between Azerbaijan and Armenia. This is not true. Azerbaijan, a dictatorship, can never sign a peace agreement, and even if they amazingly did, they would never abide by it. um, they their whole existence of the dictatorship in Azerbaijan, which is akin to North Korea, uh, it exists only with an enemy that it creates, and that's the Armenians. So we see this with the Azerbaijani television channels, which for a dictatorship are actually telling the truth. They're talking about you know hegemony. Uh, Making sure that the Azerbaijani people think that it's okay to attack Armenia. So there will be no peace agreement, at least with this sort of narrative. Here we talk in the social media about, oh, America wants to get involved in creating a road. I mean, it's all bullshit and spin, isn't it? It's never going to happen because no country is going to give up a sovereign piece of its land. Imagine America giving up a road run by, say, Britain between Mexico and Canada because those countries want to shuttle across American territory. No, it's not going to happen, is it? Um, well, it could happen as a win-win situation if people uh, understand that a winner-takes-all solution that's been touted. Either Azerbaijan attacks and takes that territory in the so-called Zangezur corridor, or it's some sort of strange political agreement. But in all of those cases, Armenia is going to be the loser, and Iran's going to be the loser because it's and India as well, because it loses its connection with Armenia. So it's just not going to happen, is it? I just wish that people would, give ordinary people a chance to have a voice, be informed, and not be corrupted by all this bullshit that we see coming from not just traditional media, as we said, the social media, influencers, leaders' speeches, and even, as we've seen, sadly, the Bible. Uh, People who have a voice need to do better. The West needs to do better. If we are honest about freedom, democracy, if that's our true intention, then we have to stop this rubbish now, and we have to change things. Otherwise, the world, as it's increasingly moving in the BRICS direction, is going to leave the West behind, and the West, unfortunately, will be the ultimate loser from all of this. So, uh, this is Len from Straight Talk from the Homeland. Thank you again for your support. We really appreciate it. And hopefully, collectively, our voices will be heard, and our leaders and the people who can make a difference will do a lot better.